The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched out like a vast metal cave. 12 different alien races sat in their floating chairs looking down at the humans below. Captain Hyunwoo Park stood straight and tall in his dark blue uniform. His gray hair was neat and his face showed no fear. Behind him, Ambassador Sujin Kim tried to stay calm, but her hands were shaking. The Veltari Chancellor Kixmore rose from his seat. His skin was purple and smooth like wet stone. His 4 eyes blinked one by one as he spoke. "Humans of Earth," his voice echoed through the hall. "You stand accused of crimes against galactic peace." Hyunwoo did not move. He had fought in 3 wars for humanity. He had seen friends die in the cold of space. But this felt worse than any battle. This felt like the end of everything. "Your species has taken 17 star systems in only 200 years, Chixmore continued. "You build weapons that kill too well. You expand too fast. You are too dangerous for civilized space." The crystalline Zephi representative Velnara stood up next. Her body looked like living glass, and light danced inside her when she moved. "Humans feel too much," she said, her voice like wind chimes. "Anger, fear, love, hate. These emotions make you unpredictable. You cannot control yourselves." Sujin stepped forward. "We have followed all galactic laws," she said. "We have traded fairly. We have defended ourselves when attacked. What crime is this?" Admiral Torgeth of the Kethran slammed his massive fist on his chair. The Kethran looked like huge bears made of metal and flesh. "You fight like animals," he roared. "Your tactics have no honor. You use tricks and lies." Other voices joined. In the snake-like Sthara hissed about human deception. The floating jellyfish Akumari bubbled complaints about human aggression. One by one, each of the 12 races spoke against humanity. In the crowd of humans, young scientist Ji-hoon Lee whispered to his friend Da-hyun Choi, "They planned this. All of it. They want us gone." Da-hyun nodded. She was a lieutenant in the human fleet, young but smart. "But why now? What changed?" Ji-hoon's eyes were worried. "We're getting too strong, too fast. They're scared of us." Chancellor Kixmore raised his hand for silence. "The Galactic Council has made its decision. Humanity will leave all claimed space beyond your home system. You have 30 solar cycles to withdraw. Any human ship found outside Sol space after that time will be destroyed." The words hit the humans like a physical blow. Sujin's face went pale. "You cannot do this," she said. "Billions of humans live in those colonies. Where will they go?" "That is not our concern," said Velnara. "You should have thought of this before you became a threat." Admiral Torgeth stood up, his massive frame casting a shadow over the humans. "My fleet will enforce this exile. Any human who resists will die." Hyunwoo finally spoke. His voice was quiet, but everyone heard him. "We came to you in peace. We shared our science, our culture, our friendship. And this is how you repay us?" Kixmore's 4 eyes stared down at him. "Peace? Your species has known war for its entire history. You bring violence wherever you go. The galaxy will be safer without you." "Safer for who?" Hyunwoo asked. "For your trading monopolies? For your old empires that never change? You fear us because we grow while you stay the same." "Enough," Torgeth roared. "The decision is made. Leave now, or be destroyed." The human delegation was escorted from the hall by floating security drones. As they walked through the long corridors of Nexus Prime, other aliens watched them with cold eyes. Some looked afraid, others looked pleased. None looked sad to see them go. In the transport ship back to the human fleet, Sujin sat with her head in her hands. 17 worlds, she whispered. 8 billion people. How do we evacuate 8 billion people in 30 days? Captain Hyunwoo sat beside her. "We don't," he said quietly. "We can't move that many people that fast." Ji-hoon looked up from his datapad. "Captain, I need to tell you something. My research team has been working on new technology. Things the Council doesn't know about. If we could have more time." "What kind of technology?" Hyunwoo asked. "FTL systems that work differently. Weapons that use dark matter. Ways to hide in space that nobody else knows." Ji-hoon's voice got excited. We could disappear completely if we had to. Hyunwoo stared out the window at the stars. Below them, the human fleet waited for orders. 300 ships, the pride of human space. Soon they would be all that was left of humanity's reach into the galaxy. Da-hyun, he said suddenly, I have a special mission for you. The young lieutenant straightened up. Yes, sir? Take a small team. Fast ships only. I want you to scout the galactic rim, the empty spaces where nobody goes. Find places we could hide if we needed to. Soo-jin looked at him with surprise. Hyunwoo, you're not thinking of fighting this, are you? Their fleet is 100 times bigger than ours. I'm thinking of surviving, he replied. The council thinks exile means death for us. Maybe they're wrong. Da-hyun nodded. How long do I have? Leave tonight. Take only people you trust completely. If anyone asks, you're on a deep patrol mission. As their ship docked with the human command vessel, news was already spreading through the fleet. The exile order was being broadcast on all channels. On Earth, crowds were gathering in the streets. Some were angry, some were afraid. Most were just confused. But in the depths of space, Da-hyun Choi was already preparing her small task force. 3 fast scouts and a supply ship. Enough to disappear into the dark between stars and not be missed for weeks. Hyunwoo watched her. Ships slip away into the night. The council thought they were ending humanity's story in the galaxy. They had no idea they were just writing the first page of a new chapter. Behind them, the lights of Nexus Prime grew smaller. Ahead lay the long journey back to Seoul, back to Earth, back to a cage made of their own star system. But also ahead lay the unknown dark of the galactic rim, where no alien had ever thought to look for humans. The great exile had begun. But Hyunwoo, Park smiled grimly as he watched the stars. The council had made one terrible mistake. They thought humans would accept defeat. They were about to learn how wrong they were. 5 years had passed since the Great Exile began. Earth was crowded now, more crowded than it had ever been. Ships arrived every day carrying refugees from the abandoned colonies. The orbital stations were packed with people who had nowhere else to go. The planet that had once sent its children to the stars now had to take them all back. Admiral Min-ho Yang stood on the observation deck of the Pluto research station, watching supply ships drift between the ice asteroids. To the rest of humanity, this was just another military outpost. But Min-ho knew better. Hidden in the depths of Pluto's frozen surface was something the government called the Outer Reach Project, something the council would never expect. The new prototype is ready for testing, said Dr. Yoon Ji-han as she joined him at the window. Her hair was white now, aged by years of stress and work. Before the exile, she had built worlds for humans to live on. Now she built ships to hide in the dark. Min-ho nodded. Show me. They took the elevator deep into Pluto's core, past levels, marked with boring names like ice mining and atmospheric processing. The real work happened far below, in chambers carved from solid rock and metal. Here, away from any watching eyes, humanity's best scientists worked on things that should not exist. The hangar was vast and dark. In the center sat a ship unlike any other in human space. It was sleek and black with curves that seemed to bend light around them. No visible engines, no obvious weapons. It looked more like a piece of living shadow than a machine. We call it the Night Runner, Yoonji said proudly. It uses the void diving technology Ji-hoon developed. Instead of normal FTL, it rides the dark matter streams. Min-ho walked around the ship. And the council can't detect it? Their sensors look for normal energy signatures. This ship doesn't have any. When it's in the void stream, it might as well not exist. Ji-hoon Lee emerged from under the ship, his hands dirty with strange oils. The young scientist was older now, but his eyes still burned with curiosity. The tests are promising, he said. We can travel faster than anything the council has and leave no trace at all. How far can it go? Min-ho asked. Anywhere, Ji-hoon smiled. The dark matter streams connect everything. We could reach the other side of the galaxy and nobody would know we were there. Min-ho felt something he had not felt in 5 years. Hope. When can we test it properly? Da-hyun Choi is coming back next week, Yoon-ji said. She's been out there for 3 years now, mapping the galactic rim. If anyone can test this ship, it's her. The elevator brought them back up to the living areas. Here, carefully chosen men and women worked and waited. They were the best of the best. Engineers, soldiers, scientists, pilots, all of them volunteers. All of them ready to disappear into the dark if needed. Colonel Jae-sung Ko was waiting for them in the briefing room. He was a big man with kind eyes and a voice that made people want to follow him. Before the exile, he had led colonial defense forces. Now he led something much more important. The recruitment numbers are up, he reported. Word is spreading quietly through the fleet. More people want to join us every day. How many? Minho asked. 15,000 volunteers so far, all with families, all willing to leave Earth behind if we ask them to. Yoon-ji looked worried. The government still doesn't know? President Nam suspects something, Jae-sung admitted. But he's not asking direct questions. I think he wants to be able to deny knowing anything if the council finds out. Minho understood. Woojin Nam was a good president, but he had to think about all of humanity. If this secret project failed, Earth needed to be protected from the council's anger. The door chimed and a young woman entered. Lieutenant Da-hyun Choi looked tired but excited. Her uniform was worn from long months in space, but her eyes were bright. Admiral, she saluted Minho. I have news from the Rim. They gathered around the holographic display as Da-hyun uploaded her data. Stars and empty space appeared in the air, showing the edge of known space. But there were new markers now. Red, dots in the darkness. I found them, Da-hyun said simply. Places where humans could live. Hidden systems that the council never bothered to explore. Rogue planets. Dead stars with useful asteroids. Whole regions of space that exist between their navigation charts. She pointed to a cluster of red dots. This area here, we could call it the Twilight Expanse. Dozens of systems that could support small colonies. And they're all connected by the same dark matter streams that Ji-hoon's ships use. Minho stared at the display. How many people could we hide there? Millions, eventually. Maybe tens of millions if we're smart about it. Da-hyun's voice got excited. Admiral, we don't have to just survive exile. We could build something new out there. Something the council will never find. Jae-sung leaned forward. What would we need? Colony ships. The kind that can work without support from Earth. Mobile factories, asteroid miners. And lots of the new void-diving ships to keep everything connected. Ji-hoon was already thinking ahead. We could modify civilian transports, make them disappear into the dark matter streams. The council would think they just vanished. When could we start? Minho asked. Da-hyun smiled. Give me 6 months to prepare the first sites. Then we could begin moving people. Small groups, at first. Families who are willing to take the risk. Over the next few weeks, the Outer Reach project changed from a research program to something much bigger. Carefully chosen volunteers began arriving at Pluto Station. Engineers who could build anything. Doctors who could work miracles with limited supplies. Teachers who could educate children born among the stars. Subin Park was one of them. Captain Hyun-woo's daughter had inherited her father's stubborn courage. She was younger than most fleet commanders, but twice as smart. When she volunteered to lead the first expedition into the Twilight Expanse, nobody questioned her. 5,000 people, she said, studying the mission plans. 3 modified colony ships. Enough supplies for 2 years of independent operation. She looked up at Minho. And if something goes wrong? Then you disappear completely, he said honestly. Earth cannot help you. The government will deny you exist. You'll be truly on your own. Subin nodded. Good. That's how we'll become strong. The launch was scheduled for a dark night when Earth's orbital sensors would be looking the other way. 3 ships, their names painted over and replaced with new ones. Hope's Dream, New Dawn, and Pathfinder. They looked like ordinary transports, but inside they had been rebuilt with void diving technology. President Wu Jin-nam arrived at Pluto Station the night before launch. He came alone without guards or reporters. Minho met him at the airlock. "I'm not here officially," the president said. "As far as anyone knows, I'm visiting my sick aunt on Luna Station." They walked through the hidden levels of the project. Nam saw the workshops where impossible technology was being built. He met the volunteers who were ready to disappear into the unknown. He shook hands with Subin Park and wished her luck. "If this works," he told Minho privately, "it changes everything. Humanity won't just be surviving exile, we'll be growing beyond it. And if it fails, then we lose 5,000 brave people, and I have to pretend I never knew they existed." Launch night came with perfect darkness. The three ships slipped away from Pluto like shadows, their void-diving engines making no sound and leaving no trail. One moment they were there, the next they were gone, riding invisible currents toward the edge of known space. On Earth, the news reports talked about humanity's adjustment to exile. Some colonies were being abandoned, others were fighting to stay independent. The Council's patrol fleets were getting more aggressive, destroying any human ship that strayed too far from Sol space. But in the darkness between the stars, Subin Park's small fleet was writing a different story. They were carrying the seeds of humanity's future into the places where no alien had ever thought to look. In the twilight expanse, where broken worlds orbited dying stars, humanity would learn to grow in the dark. The exile that was meant to cage humanity had instead shown them how big the galaxy really was. And in the vast empty spaces that the Council ignored, humans were about to prove that they could thrive anywhere. The seeds had been planted. Soon they would grow into something the galaxy had never seen before. 10 years after the Great Exile began, the Twilight Expanse had become humanity's secret kingdom. Admiral Subin Park floated in the command center of her flagship, watching holographic displays show dozens of hidden colonies. Each one was a small miracle of human stubbornness and cleverness. The colonies didn't look like the old worlds humanity had lost. These were mobile habitats that drifted through dark matter streams like living things. Cities built inside asteroids that could disappear into the void at a moment's notice. Space stations that existed partially in normal space and partially in dimensions the Council didn't even know about. "New Busan is ready for its next jump," reported Commander Taemin Seo from his engineering station. "The void generators are charged and the population is secure." Subin nodded. New Busan was one of their largest colonies, home to 50,000 humans who had learned to live between the stars. It was built inside a hollow asteroid the size of a small moon, but it could vanish from normal space whenever danger approached. "Good work, Taemin. Have them jump to Sector 774. The dark matter currents are stable there." This was how humans lived now in the Twilight Expanse, never staying in one place too long, always moving, always hidden. The Council thought the space between their territories was empty. They had no idea it was full of human cities that danced through dimensions they couldn't see. The warning alarm chimed softly. Lieutenant Hyejin Moon looked up from her sensor station. "Admiral, we have a problem. Kethran Patrol Fleet bearing 27 Mark IV. They're heading straight for New Busan." Subin felt her blood go cold. The Kethran were the Council's best hunters. If they had found one of the hidden colonies, it meant the secret was out. "How many ships?" 12 heavy cruisers, led by War Commander Zethkal himself. Subin knew that name. Zethkal was famous throughout Kethran space. He had never lost a battle. His fleet was known for leaving no survivors. If he had come hunting humans, he meant to finish the job. "Send the emergency signal to New Busan. Tell them to jump immediately." "Signal sent, Admiral. But the jump sequence takes 10 minutes. The Kethran will be there in 8. Subin made her choice in seconds. "All ships, battle stations. We're going to buy New Busan the time they need." The human fleet that surrounded her was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. These ships had been built in the Void Forges, mobile shipyards that existed in the spaces between realities. They used technology that Dr. Yoon Ji-han and Ji-hoon Lee had perfected over years of desperate innovation. The ships could phase in and out of normal space. Their weapons fired dark matter shells that could pass through regular shields. Their armor was made from materials that existed in multiple dimensions at once. To conventional sensors, they looked like ghosts. Phantom Squadron, execute pattern. Alpha, Subin ordered. Make them think we're everywhere at once. The human ships scattered and vanished. One moment there was a small fleet, the next there was empty space. But the ships hadn't gone far. They were still there, existing in the dark matter streams that flowed around normal space like invisible rivers. War Commander Zethkal was a proud warrior. His ship was the size of a small city, covered in weapons and armor. He had fought the humans before during the early days of exile. He remembered them as brave but primitive. He expected an easy victory. Unknown vessels. His voice boomed across space. You are in violation of Council space. Surrender now, or be destroyed. Subin's reply came from everywhere and nowhere. Kethran, Commander, you are the one who doesn't belong here. Leave now and we might let you live. Zethkal roared with laughter. Humans, still making threats you cannot keep. I see only empty space. Are you so cowardly that you hide from honorable battle? We're not hiding, Subin said calmly. We're hunting. The attack began without warning. Human ships materialized around the Kethran fleet like demons from the dark. They fired once, then vanished before return fire could hit them. Dark matter weapons punched through shields as if they weren't there. Zethkal's first mistake was trying to fight a conventional battle. His ships formed battle lines and fired at targets that weren't there anymore. His second mistake was underestimating how much humans had changed. They're using some kind of phase technology, his tactical officer reported. Our weapons can't lock onto them. Then fire everywhere, Zethkal commanded. Fill space with plasma. They cannot hide from everything. But they could. The human ships danced through the weapon fire like it was slow rain. They appeared behind. Kethran vessels fired devastating volleys, then disappeared before the aliens could turn to face them. One by one, the proud warships of the Kethran fleet went dark. Commander Hyjin Moon was leading Phantom Squadron's third wing when she found her perfect target. Zethkal's flagship was trying to retreat, its engines damaged by repeated hits. She brought her ship out of phase space directly above it. This is for everyone you killed, alien, she whispered, and fired everything she had. The dark matter torpedo struck the flagship's command section and tore it open like paper. Zethkal had just enough time to send a final message before his ship exploded. The humans, they're not human anymore. When the battle ended, 11 of 12 Kethran ships were destroyed. Only one cruiser survived, badly damaged but with its data core intact. Subin let it escape on purpose. She wanted the Council to know what had happened here. New Busan reports successful jump, Lieutenant Moon reported. They're safe in Sector 774. Subin looked at the debris field where the Kethran fleet had died. Send a message to all colonies. The secret is out. From now on, we're at war. The message reached Colonel Jae-sung Ko on Earth 3 days later. He was meeting with President Woo Jin-nam in a secure bunker deep under the Pacific Ocean. The news changed everything. They know we're out there, Jae-sung said. The Council will come with everything they have. President Nam looked older than his years. The stress of leading humanity through exile had worn him down. How many people do we have in the Twilight Expanse now? 2 million, spread across 43 mobile colonies, plus our Void Fleet. Can they survive a full Council assault? Jae-sung was quiet for a long moment. Not by running and hiding anymore, we'll have to fight. Then fight, Nam said simply. You have my authorization for Operation Dark Genesis. Hit them before they can organize against us. Operation Dark Genesis had been planned for years. It was humanity's ultimate gamble. Instead of waiting for the Council to hunt down the hidden colonies one by one, the human fleet would strike first. They would attack 12 different Council outposts simultaneously, showing the galaxy that humanity was no longer prey. The operation began at midnight, Galactic Standard Time. Human void fleets materialized around isolated Council bases throughout the galaxy. The attacks were perfectly coordinated. Each target was hit by ships that shouldn't exist, using weapons that shouldn't be possible. The Veltari research station at Kepler 442 simply vanished. One moment it was there, conducting experiments on dark matter. The next moment, there was empty space where it had been. No distress signals, no wreckage, no survivors. The HFY trading post at Wolf 359 suffered the same fate. So did the Cythera mining facility at Proxima Centauri. One by one, 12 Council installations disappeared as if they had never existed. The message was clear. Humanity was no longer hiding in exile. They had become something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. They could strike anywhere, anytime, and vanish without a trace. On Earth, old Captain Hyunwoo Park watched the news reports with grim satisfaction. He was retired now, but he still remembered the day of exile. The day the Council had told humanity they didn't deserve to exist among the stars. They made us into monsters, he told his aide. They wanted to cage us, so we learned to live in the spaces between their cages. Now they're finding out what we became in the dark. The Council's response was swift but clumsy. They sent hunting, fleets to every system where humans had been detected. But the humans were never where the aliens expected them to be. They had learned to exist in the void itself, in the dark matter streams that flowed between the stars like invisible highways. Admiral Subin Park stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching a Veltari task force search empty space for her fleet. They were less than a kilometer away, but they might as well have been in another galaxy. The human ships existed in a parallel dimension, visible only to each other. They still don't understand, she told Commander Taemin Seo. They think we're hiding from them. They don't realize we're hunting them. The war for humanity's survival had begun. But this wasn't the war the Council expected. This was something new. Humanity had been exiled from the galaxy, so they had learned to live beyond it. Now they were coming back, not as refugees begging for mercy, but as something the galaxy had never seen. They were coming back as gods of the dark between stars. 25 years had passed since humanity's exile began. The galaxy had changed in ways nobody could have predicted. The Galactic Council still met on Nexus Prime, but their authority meant less with each passing day. In the dark spaces between their territories, a shadow empire had grown. Emperor Jae-sung Ko stood in the heart of New Terra, the greatest achievement of human engineering. The massive city ship existed in multiple dimensions at once, phases in and out of reality like a dream made solid. Around him, millions of humans lived and worked in spaces that the Council's scientists said were impossible. "The latest reports, Your Majesty," said Admiral Do Yun Kang, approaching with a data tablet. The title still felt strange to Jae-sung. He had been a simple colonel once, leading colonial defense forces. Now he ruled an empire that existed beyond the normal laws of physics. "How many systems do we control now?" Jae-sung asked. "Direct control? None, in the traditional sense. But our influence extends through 47 regions of dark space. We can appear anywhere in the galaxy within hours. The Council's own shipping lanes run through space we monitor." Jae-sung nodded. This was how the Shadow Empire worked. They didn't conquer planets like the old galactic powers. Instead, they controlled the spaces between worlds, the void currents that connected everything, the dark matter streams that flowed through the galaxy like blood through a living body. And our fleet? Growing stronger every day. Admiral Subin Park has 300 void ships under her command now. Admiral Hyejin Moon commands another 200, all of them invisible to Council sensors. Through the massive windows of New Terra's throne room, Jae-sung could see the construction yards where new ships were being born. They looked more like living things than machines, their hulls flowing like liquid metal, their engines bending space itself. These ships didn't just travel through the galaxy. They rewrote the rules of how travel was possible. The communication panel chimed with an urgent message. Grand Admiral Soo-jin Kim appeared as a hologram, her image flickering with the strange energies of long-distance void transmission. "Your Majesty," she said formally. The woman who had once been Earth's ambassador to the Council now commanded humanity's military forces. "I'm transmitting from the Kepler Junction. We've taken the system." Jae-sung felt his heart skip. The Kepler junction was one of the most important strategic points in the galaxy. 4 major hyperspace routes met there, connecting the Council's core territories. If humans controlled it? How is that possible? He asked. The Council has 3 battle fleets guarding that system. Sujin smiled grimly. They had 3 battle fleets. Admiral Do Yun Kang's operation was flawless. The enemy never saw us coming. Do Yun stepped forward to explain. We used the new reality anchoring technology. Instead of attacking through normal space, we shifted the entire junction into our dimensional pocket. From the Council's perspective, the whole system just stopped existing. This was the breakthrough that Dr. Ji-Hoon Lee had been working on for decades. Reality anchoring allowed humans to take pieces of normal space and move them into the shadow dimensions where the human empire existed. It was like cutting holes in the galaxy and filling them with human-controlled space. The Council's response? Jae-sung asked. Supreme Marshal Torgeth has called an emergency session, Sujin reported. He's trying to unite all 12 races against us. They're calling us an existential threat to galactic civilization. Jae-sung laughed, but there was no humor in it. Existential threat? We're the ones they tried to exterminate. We're the ones they exiled to die in the dark. They're mobilizing everything, Do-Yun warned. The largest fleet in galactic history. Thousands of ships from all the major powers. Let them come, Jae-sung said. They still don't understand what we've become. On Nexus Prime, the emergency council session was in chaos. Supreme Marshal Torgeth, now ancient but still powerful, slammed his massive fist on the central podium. Around him, the representatives of 12 races argued and shouted in a dozen different languages. Silence, Torgeth roared. The humans have taken the Kepler junction. They control the most important crossroads in the galaxy. This is not the time for debate. Chancellor Kixmore rose from his seat, his purple skin darker than usual with stress. How is this possible? Our intelligence says they have no planets, no fixed bases. How can exiles control strategic systems? The brilliant HFY strategist Nexara materialized as a shimmer of living crystal. Her analysis had been trying to predict human movements for years, always failing. They exist outside our understanding of space, she admitted. Our probability, matrices cannot account for their actions because they operate in dimensions we cannot detect. Then how do we fight them? Demanded the Sistara representative, her serpentine body coiled with frustration. Supreme Marshal Torgeth brought up the tactical display. It showed the galaxy as the Council understood it, with their territories marked in different colors. But now there were dark spots scattered everywhere, regions where space itself seemed to be missing. They're not conquering systems, Torgeth explained. They're stealing pieces of reality itself. Every month, more space simply vanishes from our sensors. Trade routes disappear. Military bases cease to exist. They're not invading our galaxy. They're replacing it with something else. The truth was worse than any of them wanted to admit. The humans weren't just fighting the Council. They were rewriting the fundamental structure of space-time itself. Where they passed, the normal rules of physics began to change. Back in the Shadow Empire, Emperor Jae-sung Ko received reports from across human space. The void cities were thriving. New Terra had grown to house 10 million people. Other city ships like Eternal Dawn and Shadow's Edge drifted through the dark dimensions, each one a miracle of human engineering. But the greatest miracle was the people themselves. Children who had been born in the void grew up thinking in ways that their planet-bound ancestors never could. They played games that involved moving through 7 dimensions. They spoke languages that included concepts no alien race had words for. Admiral Hyejin Moon was one of these new humans. Born in Weinsar, the Twilight Expanse raised among the void fleets, she commanded forces that existed in multiple realities simultaneously. When she spoke to her crews, her words traveled through dark matter streams to reach ships that were technically in different universes. The Council fleet is gathering at Rigel Station, she reported to the Command Council. 2,000 ships, from all 12 races. They're calling it the Great Crusade. Emperor Jae-sung Ko looked around the table at his advisors. These people had built an empire from nothing. They had taken humanity's exile and turned it into transcendence. Admiral Park, what's the status of our defenses? Su Bin Park, now older but still sharp, consulted her displays. We have void fleets positioned throughout the shadow dimensions. If they attack any of our anchor points, we can respond from 7 different realities at once. Dr. Lee, Jae Sung, turned to the ancient scientist. Is the ultimate protocol ready? Ji-Hoon Lee nodded slowly. He was very old now, kept alive by medical technology that used the strange physics of void space. The dimensional cascade device is prepared. If we activate it, we can shift entire star systems into our reality. But the energy required would drain half our empire's power reserves, Jae Sung finished. I know the cost. The final confrontation was coming. The Council had gathered the largest military force in galactic history. Every race that had voted for humanity's exile was now sending their best ships to finish what they had started. But humanity was no longer the species that had been driven from the galaxy 25 years ago. They had become something new. Something that existed beyond the normal limits of space and time. The war was about to enter its final phase. The Council thought they were fighting to save galactic civilization. Humanity knew they were fighting for the right to exist beyond the galaxy's rules entirely. In the depths of New Terra, ancient Captain Hyunwoo Park sat in his retirement chamber, watching reports from across the Empire. He was one of the few humans still alive who remembered the original exile. The day the Council had told humanity they weren't worthy of the stars. They were right about one thing, he said to his nurse. A young woman born in the void dimensions. We weren't worthy of their galaxy. The young woman looked confused. What do you mean, honored elder? Hyunwoo smiled. We were too small for their galaxy, so we made our own. Outside the windows, the impossible architecture of New Terra stretched toward infinity. Humanity had been exiled from one galaxy, so they had built another one, bigger and better in the spaces between realities. The Council was about to learn that exile had been humanity's graduation, not their punishment. 50 years had passed since humanity's exile from the galaxy. The universe itself had changed beyond recognition. Where once there had been empty space between the stars, now there were currents of possibility that flowed like invisible rivers. Where once aliens had traveled through normal hyperspace, now they had to ask permission from beings who existed in 7 dimensions at once. Empress Hae-Jin Moon stood on the eternal throne aboard the Void City Ascension, looking out at a galaxy that belonged to humanity as much as anyone else. She was young when the exile began, just another lieutenant trying to survive in the darkness between stars. Now she ruled an empire that existed across multiple realities. The Council delegation has arrived, announced Admiral Do-Yun Kang. He was ancient now, kept alive by medical technology that used the strange physics of void space. But his mind was still sharp, and his loyalty to humanity had never wavered. Ye-Jin nodded. Send them to the conference chamber. It's time we settled this once and for all. The conference chamber was a marvel of human engineering. It existed simultaneously in normal space, dark matter dimensions, and 3 other realities that aliens didn't have names for. Delegates could attend the meeting from their home worlds while actually being present in the room. It was the kind of impossible technology that humanity had mastered during their long exile. The Council delegation was led by Chancellor Vel Ran, a young Veltari who had never known a galaxy where humans weren't a major power. Beside him stood Admiral Kessitel of the Kethran, Supreme Coordinator Nixara of the Zeph High, and representatives from all 12 races that had once voted for humanity's exile. But the galaxy had other powers now. The Nexari Collective had emerged from the galactic core, a machine intelligence that controlled entire star clusters. The Wild Stars Alliance ruled the Outer Rim, free planets that had declared independence from the old order. And in the dark spaces between all of them, the human Imperium maintained the peace. Your Imperial Majesty, Chancellor Velran began formally, the Galactic Council wishes to discuss the terms of our coexistence. Ye-Jin almost smiled. Coexistence. 50 years ago, these same aliens had told humanity to die quietly in exile. Now they wanted to negotiate as equals. Speak freely, Chancellor. What does the Council want? Admiral Kestel stepped forward. The Kithran warrior looked uncomfortable in the diplomatic setting. His people preferred honest battle to complex politics. We want to understand the boundaries of your empire. Our ships, they keep disappearing into spaces that should be empty. That's because they are empty, said Admiral Yejin Nam from her position beside the throne. She was President Wujin Nam's granddaughter, born in the void dimensions and raised among the star cities of the Imperium. Empty of normal matter anyway, but full of other things. Supreme Coordinator Nixara shifted nervously. The HFY had spent decades trying to understand human technology, always failing. Your space exists. Where? Our sensors detect nothing. Your sensors look for things that exist in your reality, Hyejin explained patiently. We exist in the spaces, between your reality, the dark matter streams that connect everything, the quantum foam that underlies space-time itself. This was what humanity had become during their exile. They had learned to live in the fundamental structures of the universe, not just on planets or in space stations, but in the very fabric of reality itself. The Council representatives looked at each other uncertainly. These were beings who had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. Their ancestors had built the great civilizations while humans were still living in caves. But now they were asking permission from those same humans to travel safely through what they thought was empty space. We propose a formal treaty, Chancellor Velrun said finally. Recognition of the human imperium as a sovereign power. Trade agreements. Non-aggression pacts. You want to legitimize us, Hyejin said. It wasn't a question. You are legitimate, Admiral Kestel admitted grudgingly. You have proven your strength. Your empire is impressive. Hyejin stood from the eternal throne. Around her, the conference chamber responded to her presence, reality itself shifting to accommodate her will. This was what the long exile had taught humanity, not just to survive in impossible conditions, but to master them. Let me tell you what you're really asking for, she said. You want us to accept boundaries. You want us to promise we'll stay in our assigned space and not interfere with your affairs. You want the dangerous humans to be predictable again. The silence stretched for long moments. Finally, Supreme Coordinator Nixara spoke. Yes, that is what we want. 50 years ago, you told us we were too dangerous for civilized space. You gave us 30 days to disappear or die. Do you remember that? Chancellor Velron looked uncomfortable. He had studied the historical records. Mistakes were made. The Council acted hastily. You acted like bullies, Hyejin corrected. You saw something new and different, and your first instinct was to destroy it. You didn't try to understand us. You didn't try to work with us. You just wanted us gone. Admiral Doyun Kang stepped forward. Your Majesty, perhaps we should hear their full proposal. Hyejin nodded. Very well, what exactly are you offering? Chancellor Velron activated a holographic display. It showed the galaxy divided into clearly marked zones. The Council territories would remain under traditional governance. The neutral zone would be open to all species for trade and diplomacy, and the Imperial Void would be recognized as sovereign human space. It was a generous offer, by the standards of galactic politics. The Council was essentially admitting that humanity deserved an equal voice in galactic affairs. But Hyejin could see the trap hidden in the generous words. You want to contain us, she said. Give us our own space so we don't interfere with yours. But here's what you don't understand. We don't want to be contained anymore. She gestured, and the holographic display changed. Now it showed the galaxy, as humanity saw it. Not separate territories, but interconnected streams of dark matter and possibility. Every star system connected to every other by currents of quantum energy that humans had learned to navigate. This is how we see the galaxy, Hyejin explained. Not as separate territories to be divided, but as one interconnected system. Your trade routes run through space we monitor. Your military bases exist in dimensions we can access. Your entire civilization depends on physical laws we have learned to rewrite. The council delegates stared at the display in growing alarm. They were beginning to understand the true scope of what humanity had become. "You're saying you control everything," Admiral Kessatel said. "We're saying we're part of everything," Hyajin corrected. "The exile forced us to evolve beyond the need for planets or fixed territories. We exist in the infrastructure of reality itself. We are the galaxy, as much as any of you." Supreme Coordinator Nixara's crystalline form flickered with distress. "Then what do you want from us?" "Partnership," Hyajin said simply. "Not containment, not division. Partnership." Admiral Yejin Nam activated another display. This one showed human technology in action. Void ships appearing instantly across impossible distances. Space stations that existed in 7 dimensions simultaneously. Entire star systems being moved through dark matter streams like chess pieces. "We have the power to impose our will on the galaxy," Yejin said. "But we don't want to. We want to work together to build something better than what came before." The negotiations continued for weeks. In the end, the treaty that emerged was unlike anything in galactic history. The Nexus Accords created 3 zones of influence, but with fluid boundaries that could shift based on need and circumstances. The Council territories remained under traditional alien governance, but with human oversight of their dark matter infrastructure. The neutral zone became a true free zone where any species could operate under agreed-upon rules, and the Imperial Void was recognized not as a separate territory, but as an additional dimension of space that existed everywhere. The key breakthrough came when humanity offered to share some of their void technology, not the advanced systems that allowed them to rewrite physics, but basic dark matter navigation that would let other species travel safely through human space. "This changes everything," Chancellor Velron admitted as he signed the treaty. "For the first time in galactic history, we have a truly multi-dimensional civilization." Empress Hyajin Moon signed the accords with her own hand, using ink made from crystallized dark matter. "This isn't about humanity conquering the galaxy," she said. "This is about all of us growing beyond what we used to be." The ceremony was broadcast across both normal space and the void dimensions. On Earth, crowds gathered to watch their species officially become equals with the powers that had once exiled them. In the void cities, children who had never known planet-bound life celebrated their inclusion in the greater galactic community. Admiral Do-Yun Kang found himself thinking about the early days when they had been desperate refugees hiding in the Wen, darkness between stars. "We've come a long way from Pluto Station," he told Empress Hyajin after the ceremony. "We've come exactly as far as we needed to," she replied. "The exile didn't end our story. It just moved us to a larger stage." In the depths of New Terra, ancient records were being updated.